back to the channel. I am Kristen from Media Padawana Knits, and I'm here today to talk to you about winter knitting trends. Now, I originally did not intend to do a winter trends video because I just did a fall trends video a few months ago, and how much could things possibly have changed? But as I have been, on Ravelry recently perusing um, new patterns and searching for patterns for things that I want, I noticed a couple of very obvious and distinct trends that I wanted to talk to you about today. So I'm going to just kind of give you an overview and then share some of my particular favorite patterns to go with these trends. So the first one I want to talk about, it's kind of like a mishmash of things, which is hoods, which kind of morph into balaclavas. There's some overlap. And then from there, we get into hooded scarves, which is, so when I say hoods, that's something, obviously, you know what a hood is, it goes over your head. But it's sort of looser fitting and usually also has something that goes around, kind of like creating a cowl at the neck. And then when I say balaclava, that is essentially the same thing, but closer fitting. So the hood can kind of lift up and down, back and forth over your head, or you can wear it down. The balaclava is closer fitting into the face, which means that you can't as easily slide it off. Sometimes, and there are some that are kind of somewhere in the middle. They're not as loose as a hood, they're not as close fitting as a balaclava. And then we have the hooded scarf, which is essentially the hood, but instead of being closed under the neck, it morphs into two ends of a scarf that can then be wrapped around the neck. So, like I said, those are kind of three things that are sometimes morphing into each other, but I noticed that there are just suddenly a ton of them. They're everywhere on Ravelry. So people seem to be kind of moving away from traditional hats this season and are really into these kind of multi-purpose head, neck things that are keeping both warm at the same time, which I think makes a lot of sense, and I am a big fan of. Hats certainly have their place, but sometimes you just need to not be worried about so many different accessories. And, there are times of the year, maybe more in the spring or the fall, where maybe you want a hat or a scarf, but not both. But during the deep winter, you're probably going to have both. So why not just put them together, right? Right. So I'm going to share a few patterns that I've seen, and I'm going to start with the hoods, and then kind of move toward the hoods, balaclavas, and then finish with the hooded scarves. So I'm going to start with something that is absolutely in my queue for when all the Christmas rush is over, and that is the Harris hood. So this just looks so elegant. There is nothing super fancy about this. It might just be like the color chosen here, this sort of cream camel, almost camel color. It just looks very elegant and sophisticated. So the Harris hood is a pattern by Cheryl Mokhtari. It is available on Ravelry for 4.5 pounds, or about $6. And it holds a DK double with a lace weight. But this just looks, now you can see it's really a hood. It is very loose fitting. You can easily lower it up and down. And it is basically just a stockinette. It is very straightforward, but it has a really nice folded edge, again, which I think just kind of kicks it up a notch, makes it look just a little bit more sophisticated. And I just think this is beautiful. It does only come in one size, but it's a hood. It doesn't really need a whole lot of sizes. You know, you could probably pretty easily, if you wanted the opening more open or less, work the length a little bit differently. But other than that, you know, you don't, heads don't generally get like a lot wider. So really don't need a whole bunch of different sizes. So this is definitely in my list. So the yarn she used was Sandisgarn Smart. I don't know anything about that. It looks like it's held double with the Knitting for Olive silk mohair. I think this would be especially nice with that sort of that super fancy Magpie Fibers yarn, or maybe a Surrey rather than a silk mohair. You do have to fiddle with the gauge a little bit because that is a denser lace weight yarn, um, but it just looks so beautiful. I love this. So that is the first one I wanted to show you. So all of these have a relatively similar shape. The next one I'm going to show you I really like because the designer has added a drawstring, which I think is very clever to kind of balance that, you know, hood balaclava distinction, is that it can be more open, but it's really windy. You want something a little closer, you can snug it up. So this is Billy. This is a pattern by Emily Luis. And this is, looks like it's actually held with, made with, her sample was made with 3 strands of yarn held together. You could probably just use a DK weight, but it looks like it's 2 strands of lace weight and a strand of fingering weight. And it actually comes in 4 sizes. It says Billy is a removable hood with a neck that protects the neck, head, and upper body from the cold. It is knitted top down seamlessly in broken rib and stockinette, and a channel is created and a knitted I cord is passed through for that ability to cinch it up. The designer's first language is not English, I don't think, because it says knitted in a Pep's color, it will pimped up your coat winter jacket. I am not sure what that is meant to mean. um, and then the second language is French, and my French is quite poor. So the French says knit in a bright color, it will égayera, and I don't know what that means. And the English says pimped. I'm pretty sure that's not it. I don't think that's what it means. This pattern is available on Ravelry for 4.2 euros, or about $4.61. There are a fair number of projects here, so I feel like somebody else should have pointed out to her that that sentence makes no sense, but perhaps not. And not a whole lot of fancy techniques here either, relatively simple stitch patterns as well. So I like this one in particular for that drawstring. And then next, we have one that I have actually started. So this is the Hilly Hood. This is a pattern by Anne Bensel. And I have actually started one for my son that I'm hoping to finish for Christmas. We'll see. So this one is much closer around the face, more like a balaclava. But I think there's probably still enough room that you could maybe lift it up and down, depending, you know, on the size of your head. So for my son, this is an adult pattern. It just comes in one size. For him, it will end up being a little bigger and he can lift up and down. For an adult, that might not be so possible. So I did start mine. And I am using some lovely yarn from Little Fox. They're, I guess, probably their most common DK weight, but I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head. I have 2 skeins of this. I don't know if it's actually, I'm going to need both in here. And so far, this is just very straightforward. So you're knitting this top square first, then you're picking up around. Now I'm working some increases, and then I just knit a length until we're ready to move on to pull it in closer to go under the chin. And then it does have a little bit of a collar here, so that's going to like tuck under a jacket. So as I said, this is a pattern by Anne Vensel. It is 40 Danish kroner, I want to say, or $5.89. As I said, there is just one size, and definitely this one is a little bit closer to the balaclava. If you look at, she's got some nice drawings on the main pattern page illustrating this. It's just a little bit looser fitting than perhaps a traditional balaclava. And what I like about this is that it stops in the back, but it has that piece in the front. Her sample is worked with DK plus a lace weight, and I am not doing that. Easy to sub in another yarn. So as I said, this one is worked in it just does come in just one size, but I still think it is pretty versatile for most head sizes. And this one I like for my son because there's nothing distinctly feminine or masculine about it. It's very neutral, basic broken rib pattern. It's working up very quickly, and I was originally thinking about knitting this one for myself until I found the Harris hood and decided I wanted that. But I think this is a really cute choice as well. And then we're going to move into something that's a little bit more balaclava. So much closer fitting, closer into the face, and not as much, neck coverage. So the first one I wanted to show you is actually a free pattern. I don't know if it's free forever or if it's just like a special deal for now. It is called the Holiday Balaclava, and this is a pattern by Things. That's Thinnng. So this is all pretty much garter stitch with that nice snap that's going to fit under the chin to help it pull in close, but you can open it up if you need a little bit more breathing room. And as I said, this one is a freebie. So this is worked holding, let's see, 2 strands of DK weight yarn together. So that is going to give you basically a bulky weight, I'm going to guess. Well, they're saying Aran. I think that's getting close to a beyond Aran and a bulky weight. So this holiday balaclava is not only charming, but also designed for a comfortable, natural fit that won't feel tight on your head. And it does come in 2 sizes. And there's a full video tutorial to go with it. So I think this is really cute. I may, not now, but after the holidays, think about doing something like this for my younger son. He's on the spectrum. He has some difficulty with noise, and so he wears big, like those earmuff headphone things that you wear to like monster truck rallies. He wears them anytime he's out in public. He wears them to school. It would be nice to maybe have something that could go over them. It would be open, but then if he took them off, he could probably button it. So something I'm thinking about for after the holidays for him. Again, it's probably an adult pattern, but given that it looks like it's basically all garter stitch, it's probably very easy to resize. So really cute and free. And then we had one, this one came out, looks like a while ago, November 2022. So 2 years ago. I feel like I remember it coming out and it wasn't that long ago. Anyway, this is the Ripple Balaclava by Jessie May. And this one is sort of a very delicate, dainty. It is fingering and lace weight yarn. It looks like it's probably knit at a bit of a looser gauge. So it is very close fitting, but the fabric is very light and drapey. So looks like it does come in 3 sizes. So this one has a little bit of a halo because of that mohair. It's just, it looks like a ribbing, which is going to make it very flexible, but then it does come in nice and close to the face. It really doesn't have much in the neck, so it basically finishes under the chin and goes down just a little bit. So this is definitely, definitely balaclava. But it gives you just, a little bit around the neck, a little bit of warmth there. Um, so, she has in one photo, she has it kind of pulled under her chin, and that's giving you more neck coverage, or you can have it, like really close into the face. And then you're really not getting much on the neck, but you're keeping, wind and such off of your face, which is helpful. So, as I said, apparently that's 2 years old, but I swear it was more recent. And that is available on Ravelry for $6. All right, so now we're going to move from balaclava and hoods into hooded scarves, which again is you it's kind of a best of the both worlds thing where you've got something to cover your head and also something to cover your neck, which I think is pretty clever because if you don't want the neck stuff, you can just, unwrap and then you kind of got like little tails. So the first one I show you is the Valley Hood Scarf. This is by Winter's Weather Knits, and it is available on Ravelry for $9 Canadian or $6.64. Um, this is worked in a fingering weight, so this would be nice and breezy. This is not like probably something for deep winter, maybe, because it would be a little thin, but is a little bit more maybe for when we warm up a little bit in the spring. So it says the hooded scarf is the perfect accessory for adventuring, just a little something to pop over your head to protect from the elements with a long tail to wrap securely around your neck. It does include 2 sizes. And the yarn she uses is it looks like a 100% alpaca. The yarn is Kensington Prairie Farm Fine Alpaca 3-ply. So that sounds like a kind of a farm yarn. It's not available, to purchase online, but you're going to probably want a very nice, soft, drapey fingering weight yarn. It does not say what the yardage is for that yarn, so we're just going to have to take her word for it that it's a fingering weight. And relatively simple, all looks like stockinette. It says you need to know how to slip stitches, pick up stitches, and work Kitchener stitch, which if you knit socks, you almost certainly already know. And the ends of the scarf are tapered, which I think is nice. It's going to help it just like stay wrapped up if you have it wrapped up. That's really cute, but again, probably not necessarily for super, super cold weather, just because it's going to be very thin in an alpaca. That's the first hooded scarf I have to show you. And then the next one is the Alex hood. This is patterned by Pernell Larson of Knitting for Olive. Presumably uses Knitting for Olive yarn, but I didn't actually look. It is available on Ravelry for 45 Danish kroner or $6.63. And it uses the Knitting for Olive merino and the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair held together. So that's a fingering plus a lace weight. So this one, again, a little thin, but holding that merino in there, no, holding that mohair in there is going to make this one pretty warm. So Alex Hood is a hooded scarf that is worked back and forth in a simple 2x2 ribbed pattern. And it just has one size. Now, presumably, it would be pretty easy to adjust the size, particularly when we're talking about the length of the scarf ends. And just a basic 2x2 rib. So I like this one. It has a little bit more texture. That ribbing is going to give you a little bit more shape to the hood part. And it's also, since the ribbing is going to pull in a little bit, it's going to make that thin fingering weight fabric feel a little bit denser and warmer as well. And it looks like she's just done some really nice maneuvering of the ribbing to create nice trim around all the edges as well. So it just has a very neat and finished look. So again, that one was the Alex hood. And then this one is, this says, my probably Joe's or Josie hood, but it looks like Jose, and so I'm going to say Jose. My Jose hood. This is by Norgard Knitters. Don't know anything about that. Tells me it's probably not meant to be Jose because I think they're Norwegian. And this is worked in an Aran weight yarn. So this is going to be nice and chunky and cozy for the winter. This one I think just came out. Yeah, this one just came out in November. So my Jose hood is a fusion between a warm hood and a soft scarf. It's worked from the top down. I cords finish it off. Everything can tie up very nicely and neatly. And the way they actually have it styled in the photos, um, it almost looks more like the kind of hood with a cowl that I was sharing earlier, but I checked and it's a scarf. And it is mostly garter stitch. So with that heavy yarn, so it's an Aran weight yarn, Carpe Diem by Lang Yarns, which is a 70-30 merino alpaca. That sounds really nice. We'd like to try that. So with that chunky yarn and that garter stitch, I think this one is going to work up really quickly. This one might have to be added to my queue. This one is 60 Danish kroner or $8.83. It does come in just one size, but I bet it is pretty simple to resize. You're just going to work, if you need a deeper hood, you're going to work longer. If you want longer ties, you're going to work longer. It's pretty straightforward. And it just has a neat, just very cozy, chunky look that I love. All right, I'm just going to add this to my queue right now. Those are all of the hat, scarf, balaclava, hood mashups that I wanted to share. And I'm kind of grouping them all in as one kind of winter trend. They just kind of merge together. And then the other one I want to talk about is dickeys. No one's calling them dickeys because it's a ridiculous sounding word, but it is essentially what they are, which means it is a collar and then a piece in the front that covers the front of the chest, and then usually a piece in the back that covers the top of the shoulders. It can be longer, shorter. Traditionally, this is called a dickey. And they were really big in the 80s. And if you've watched, The Big Bang Theory, Howard wears them all the time. But in the 80s, it was the way to look like you were wearing a turtleneck under your sweater or whatever, without all the extra heat of having a full turtleneck or a full layer under whatever it was you were wearing. I don't know why. 80s were weird. But we're not calling them dickeys now. We are calling them neck warmers. We are calling them collars. We are calling them, some of the designs just call them a neck, which I find odd. But we're calling them all kinds of things, but what they are is dickeys. All right, so the first time I saw this, I guess was in January because that's the release date, and that saw the coffee wine collar. This is a pattern by Samantha Guerin, and here we're calling it a collar. This is available for $8 on Ravelry, and this is worked in a fingering held double with a lace weight, and you can see that this has a straight panel in the front that reaches basically all the way down to the waist. And it also has a straight panel in the back that is not as long, that reaches kind of to the top of the shoulder blades. So this is really the one I think that maybe kind of started it all, or at least started popularizing it. I'm sure these existed before. But this really took off last winter, and so the dickey thing has been all over the place since then, and there are tons of them now on Ravelry. I'm going to show you two more, but there are tons, and I know Petite Knit has a couple. But so this says it is cast on at the back hem and knit in one piece to the collar edge. Neckline shaping is worked separately for each side and joined at the front. Then the front is worked flat. Neckline stitches are picked up and knit to the desired length, and it is written for one size. So again, this one is worked in essentially a fingering weight. So this is going to be kind of a thin layer, but with that mohair in there, it's going to still be pretty warm. And then the hems and the collar are knit with a fingering weight held double, which is going to make them a little bit chunkier. So really nice piece, Coffee Run Collar by Samantha Guerin. And they're under projects on Ravelry, so you can easily check them all out. The next one I want to show you, this one, I guess has been around for a bit, but I just saw it on somebody's podcast the other day. I want to say Young Folk Knits, maybe. And this is the Gujo collar. This is so big and chunky. I love this. Is this going to fit under your coat? No, that's not what this is for. This is clearly not. But, oh, so this one also uses that Lang Yarns Carpe Diem. I may have to try that. But it is worked in a half fisherman's rib, and it is available in one size. The pattern is, it looks like the pattern is not available on Ravelry directly. It looks like you're going to have to buy the pattern from her website. Oh, she has some lovely chunky stuff here. Lots of chunky stuff. Here we go. Goju collar. All right, so this is 45 Danish kroner. I don't know what the exchange rate is. And it says Goju collar, no, Gujo collar. Gujo collar is a warm, soft cowl that is sure to keep you warm all winter, worked in half fisherman's rib with visible decreases on the front and back. Generous neckline. The front is longer in the back to keep your chest warm. I don't know what this means. We recommend that you do not wash Gujo. I don't know why. It's weird. It's probably going to stretch out a lot in that fisherman's rib, but still, I mean, things need washing sometimes. Anyway, so worked in this half fisherman's rib in this Carpe Diem yarn. This is so big and chunky. I just love this. So you are going to have to go off Ravelry if you want to buy it, but you know, that's not the end of the world. And then the other one I wanted to show you. So this is a brand new pattern, just came out in December 2024, and this is the Caitlin collar. This is by Kirsten Ritter, who appears to be a German knitter and designer, but it is available in English as well. And it's available on Ravelry for €4.90 or $5.38. So definitely a dickey. This one is worked in a DK weight, so this is going to be a little bit heavier. And I just think she has some really nice shaping lines in this that are giving it some nice structure and are also just giving it some visual interest. It's got some nice textured stitch patterns on the front and the back. Okay, so the first part of this is in German, but it also has the English. Worn as a scarf replacement, easily under a jacket or coat. Decorative little cables. The yarn here is Manada by Pasquale. Okay, so we're holding a light fingering and a lace weight together, it looks like. Again, to create our DK weight. Or you can probably just substitute a DK weight. The English is not as detailed as the German, the information here. It looks like there are multiple sizes, but it doesn't actually say that in the English. But it does use a variety of 339 to 722 yards, so it must have multiple sizes. But the kind of details about it are a little bit lacking in the English. If you speak German, you won't have any problems. But I really like the shaping lines on this one. So this, again, is the Caitlin collar by Kirsten Ritter. And now I'm going to show you my design. All right, so as I said, when I saw the coffee run collar last year, I was like, I really love this, but I would change this, 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 and this. And then I was like, well, I may as well just create my own. So this is what I have created. This does not have a name yet. So this is my version of a dickey. And so what I wanted here was a front that came to a point more like a shawl, so that's kind of what it looks like while you're wearing it with a coat over top of it. I wanted a seamless design. I didn't want a lot of futzing. I wanted a fold over collar. And the yarn I used for this is Knitting for Olive Merino, which is a pretty sturdy, I don't have the same color. Here we go. So this is a different color, but it's the same yarn. So this is a Knitting for Olive Heavy Merino. This is a nice chunky winter collar. This is not a light drapey fingering one. I wanted something that was going to fit under my coat and really be nice and warm. Oh, and then also I didn't use the stitch pattern, so I wanted a different stitch pattern. So as you can see, I've got this tapering down in the front, more like a shawl. I've got a chunky collar. You could make this longer if you wanted to. Obviously, would use more yarn. It has a short back that also tapers inward. Now, I put ribbing here on my sample, but this is not how it's going to be in the pattern, just because there's really no point in it. It doesn't pull in really because of the transition between the stitches and the decreases. The ribbing doesn't really pull in, so there's no point to it. So the in the pattern that's coming up, it's just going to be the same stitch pattern all the way down the back, but it's a shorter back that also tapers inward so that this is going to stay under your coat. This is worked from the top down. It is worked in one piece to this point, and then you split for the front and the back. This has currently in testing. It is, two of my testers have actually already finished it. They're very quick. There's something tricky with one of the sizes that I need to go back in and fix to keep the stitch pattern going. So as I said, this doesn't have a name yet, but this is going to be published very early in the new year. And this is my take on a dickey and my contribution to the dickey trend. I will not be calling it a dickey because, as I've said, it's just a ridiculous name, and also nobody else is using that, but I haven't really decided where I've landed yet. Neck warmer. I don't love collar. I mean, it's not a cowl. I don't know. If you have suggestions, I would love to hear them. Nice and squishy and cozy. And I have not been wearing this yet because I haven't done the pattern photos. Oh, I'm covering up my microphone. I haven't done the pattern photos, and I don't wear my stuff until I've done the pattern photos so I can make sure I don't screw it up. But I will be doing those soon. And then I cannot wait to be wearing this in the winter. All right, so those are the trends I have identified for the winter. All of a sudden, we've got hoods, balaclavas, hooded scarves, a mishmash of hat neck things coming out, and then we have a resurgence of the dickey. Links to all of the patterns and probably a couple of extras are going to be in the bundle that is linked in the description box down below. If you want to be up to date on when I release this pattern, please be sure to sign up for my newsletter. That link is also down below in the description box. I hope you found this video entertaining, useful, amusing, something along those lines. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and please subscribe. New knitting videos here every Saturday. Thank you again so much for joining me, and I will see you soon in another video.
And it's a dickey.